Today we are mostly going to be drawing some lemons. Even if you've never really tried drawing before, or you find it intimidating, or you think you're going to be rubbish at it, all I ask is that you get cozy, put the kettle on and sit with me, and we'll talk about maybe where that fear comes from and how we overcome it to have fun with pen and paint and paper. But first, I should probably follow my own advice. My mug has a duck on it because I'm Puddled Up Pod. I can't do that. I'm no good at that. I'll be rubbish. It'll be crap. It'll be a waste of time. All these things you hear when you do creative workshops, creative classes from people who really want to try, but have a little obstacle or a barrier to actually getting over that and having a go. That fear of failure permeates any will they had or excitement they had about trying this new thing. When we think about it, that fear could easily come from a place as simple as childhood. How many of us didn't really draw beyond school? And what did people say to you when you had a go at school? Were they really open to you exploring and taking your time? Or was it just a 40-minute session in a busy day where you were expected to do X, Y, Z without much in the way of tutorship? And then if it was rubbish or it didn't look like the thing you were meant to be drawing, you didn't get praised, or worse, you got critiqued. For me, I always loved drawing. I drew a lot. And that was the class where I got told, oh, Jem, you're talented, or this is great. But that didn't happen in maths. And I have that same fear that some people have when they tackle drawing, when somebody sits me down in front of numbers. And that comes from just never having success. Success breeds joy in the realm of achievement, doesn't it? It's not like you can celebrate something that nobody said, hey, that's great. So you have to learn to be that voice for yourself. Talk to yourself when you're trying new things as you would your grandkids or your kids or any child. If a child came to you with a really pretty picture of a lemon that they'd tried hard at, you'd love it, wouldn't you? You're going to draw a lemon. We're going to draw a lemon. Here is our lemons. And why are lemons a great idea? Well, to start drawing something, we need to limit this boundary of failure, this idea that it doesn't look like the thing it's meant to look like. So we choose something organic. We all know what a lemon looks like. This is a lemon, but so is this, and so is this. They're different sizes, they're different shapes, they're even different colours. This one's kind of greeny, this one's very yellow. And the thing is, if we go by the guidelines that exist in each one of these to draw a lemon, we're going to end up with a lemon. It might not look exactly like what's in front of us, but it's going to look very lemony, and that's what we want. So let's set up the lemons and have a look at what they look like, and then we'll go from there. We're going to use 2 lemons sat together, and if you are worried about the light changing over the course of the video or needing a reference that's very, very static, you can just take a picture. As you can see, we have the shadows underneath the lemons. That's a point of interest. We have the highlights on the very tops of the lemons, and the 2 lemons are different. Now, the margin of error for this drawing is going to be pretty, forgiving, because they're just lemons. They're just friendly little lemons. And to do this task, we're not going to use any posh materials or fancy paper. We're just going to use the humble sketchbook. Mine, she'd be very, very tattered at the minute because I've been doing the 75 challenge. You can watch my videos for that. Paper in here is just cartridge paper, just thick paper. You could do this on printer paper if you wanted. It doesn't matter. We're just having a go. The next material is a very sort of standard watercolour palette. This one is very heavily used. It was very cheap off maybe eBay, somewhere like that. And the only colours we really need will be yellow, green and purple, which might sound a bit weird, but I'll get into that. Grab a pencil and let's start sketching the shapes of these lemons. We can see that the lemon in front is rounder than the one at the back. So I'm going to start with the front lemon. And all I'm going to do is draw a very vague lemon shape. Doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to sort of hone and edit it as we go. There's the little nipply bit. Am I allowed to say that on the YouTubes? I just did. There's lemon 1, and then behind it you can see the shape of the lemon behind it is even more that word. So let's draw that in. And there's a little bump, and this is the front of the fruit, and then like that. And then the next thing that is important in our picture is a very vague outline of the shadow. So just trace the shape that you've drawn so that it's vaguely the same. You don't even really need to look at the reference for this. Just sort of sketch in a shadow that's an exaggerated shape of what we've already got. There we go. Now we don't need this anymore. We're just going to paint now. We're just going to use paint and a paintbrush. So, oh, I better go and get a paintbrush. So the first colour we're going to pick up is purple. Purple is the opposite of yellow on the colour wheel, which will give us a little sort of hack for getting these nice sort of shadowy tones. Just going to paint purple wherever we see shadow. The camera doesn't like me doing this. You don't need to wet the paper first. This is a very, very, very simple exercise. So just paint in wherever you see a shadow using a slight purple wash. That means you get your brush wet and you just sort of dip it into the paint like this. There, it's wet. Dip it into the paint. Paint, paint, paint. You see, I've put too much paint on there, but it will spread. And we want the denser colour to be close to the object that we're painting. See how it's darker at the bottom? That's what we want to create here. So dab, dab, dab. There we go. We're going to repeat this for this one, and then we're going to add shadows to the lemons themselves. Like magic, I'm going to do that one because it'd be really boring if I just keep you here. Da, 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 da. Now don't worry if your shadowy purpley bits look like a bruise. That's all right. That's good. That's what we want. It's going to be variated. You just want to make sure the denser colour is near the edge of the fruit and it comes sort of watery as you go out from the fruit. Right. Now we look at the shape of the fruit. You can see that we've got shadows across the middle of this one and then more in the background because this one obviously is being sheltered by the one in front. So we're just going to pop that band of shadow across the first one. Paint, dab, 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 and across the front of the fruit. Like that. Don't be scared of the paint. Just rub it in. And then when we get to the sort of nipply bit, if I'm allowed to say that and YouTube hasn't got mad at me, just sort of tease the front like that. And then just add little dashes of the colour. Keep it really watery if you're not too sure. Wherever you see shadow on the fruit, so it's a bit more dense around here. Do you see how that's proper dark there? And then up the top, it's a little bit knobbly. The background lemon, we're just going to do the same, but it's a bit darker, quite a lot darker. Whoops, Gem, that's a bit much. I'll just add a little bit of water to my brush to sort of spread that out a bit. But we're just moving wherever we see shadows. So up the side of the lemon. This one's got a bit of puckering, so we'll just put that in. And the top of the fruit, you can pull the pigment across the page. So long as you've got water on your brush, you just pull it across like that. You need to let that dry. Let that have a little dry and then we'll come back and that is where the magic will happen. We're going to dab, dab, dab into the yellow. And when we layer it on top of the purple, we'll get a tone like this. As you can see on the lemon, that is going to give us the depth. So let's do a little bit of a wash of that yellow onto lemon number 1. Notice I'm not really putting any more pigment on my brush, I'm just doing a wash. That is how we get the shadow. You don't need to be gentle with it either, just slap it on. Just move the colour around. And the first layer, we don't really need to think about the tones in the yellow. We're just adding the yellow. Now, this bit at the front, when we started the drawing, this was quite bright. It's not so much now, time has moved on, but I think that at the end, I'm going to bring in some acrylic to add some shine to the top. So for now, I'm going to do it all yellow. Again, I'm going to do the back one by magic because it'd be really boring to watch it for ages and ages. And there we go. Now, the lemon does have more than one kind of yellow on it. There is a bit more green on the one at the back, which we'll do last. And there's a bit more of a dense yellow towards the back of the lemon on this one. So we're just going to add a tiny, tiny bit of orange to our paint and then add another wash on the bits that we can see that are darker, like so. The light is coming from this side down, so we don't need too much on the top of the lemon, just to suggest the shape. The back up here. And the same for the one behind it. The one behind it does have green that will add more depth as we add that too. But we're just sort of looking at where the colour is and adding washes that pick it up. A bit more at the back there. There we go. The green we'll add now, last before the highlights and the details. So we can see it at the top of this lemon and sort of towards the back maybe of the first lemon. Loaded my brush with a bit of green and then we're just going to go in at the back there. Now, because the page is already wet, we can use that to our advantage. It will bloom under the brush. So you just want to tickle it really where you want the colour. Doesn't need too much persuasion to bloom out on the paper like that. So we've got some underneath as well. Dab, 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 bit of water. Poke, poke, poke. And the lemon is coming to life a bit now. Because of the round tip on the brush as well, it kind of lends itself to this. So you don't really need to worry too much. If you had a flat brush, it would come out like a line, which for some things when you're painting trees and stuff like that, that would be good. But for this, we need it to be more of a round shape. So let's just add a little bit to this one, just a suggestion, but it's not as strong in that one at all. It's hard to see at this angle because it's wet, but this is what we're working with now. Obviously we're missing the highlights and we're missing the details, which we can bring in with a pencil and a little bit of white acrylic. So let's get those. This is the picture we took initially when we first laid out the lemons, and we can see exactly where the highlights go from here. I've got a tube of white acrylic and I'm just going to put a little on a brush and then dot where I want the highlights on our lemons. There it is on the brush, and then we're just going to take it to this sort of area and this sort of area where it was when we started the drawing. I'm just going to dab it on where it was and then stipple it as we go, because we will be putting those, I don't know whether you actually call them pores on a lemon, but that's what they look like. So just concentrated and then phased out as we go. I didn't put any more paint on the brush because it just naturally will vary as it goes out. So there are our highlights, and now I just need a dark yellow, nearly brown pencil. So I'm going to find one of those. Now the temptation here is to just draw little dots all over the lemon, because that is what our brain perceives is all over the lemon. But looking at it with our eyes, we can see that actually the little dots aren't that obvious in quite a few places on the lemon. On the shadows, there's barely any. It's sort of where the light hits it. So we're not going to do too much. We're just going to put suggestions in. I've got 2 coloured pencils. I'm going to go in with the sort of dark yellow first. And all we're going to do is a suggestion. A little suggestion. Wherever we see details on the lemon. It's important not to do too much. Just a tiny little flick of the lead will do. Like so. And then finally, a few details with the brown pencil. The brown shows up a lot darker, so it only really needs to be sparing. And then you can sort of add bits that aren't really defined by the paint. And there we have it. 2 lemons. Here is the final result under direct light, as it's very difficult to show on camera, but this is what we ended up with. Thank you for drawing with me today. I hope this little tiny tutorial helped you put pen to paper if you were worried about it. And if you liked it, give me a little like and subscribe to my channel. I post videos every Tuesday at least, and I always put things on my shorts that are creative or, you know, arty. And I'd love to see you again.